Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, I hope everybody had a wonderful Valentine's Day weekend, President's Day weekend. I certainly had a very nice, restful weekend, knock on wood. However, it was disrupted yesterday. As you know, I live in southern Massachusetts. I live maybe 10 minutes away from the Rhode Island border. And my wife and kids often we go to Providence. We go to, places in Rhode Island all the time. It's a very short drive. It's maybe 20 minutes tops. And, we go to Providence. We go to the big mall in Providence. We've been to Pawtucket, and I'm going to get to Pawtucket in a second. So we know that area quite well. Yesterday at 2:30 p.m., there was a hockey tournament. A hockey game was being played. Different players from different schools all across northern Rhode Island at the Lynch Arena. Okay, this was a high school hockey tournament. And all hell broke loose. A transgender man entered the arena, I'm not kidding, with two guns colored in pink, with a pink color, in a holster. And initially, when people saw this, very flamboyant transgender man, a man dressing like a woman, and with two pink-colored guns, they thought it was a joke. It was no joke. It was another deranged transgender mass shooter. 11 shots rang out. It was a targeted shooting. The individual who perpetrated the atrocity is an individual who has now been identified as Robert Dorgan. He's 56 or was 56 years old, lives in North Providence, but went by the name Roberta Esposito or Roberta Dorgano, okay, but went by Roberta. And he identified as a woman. And in anger and enraged by the fact that his ex-wife, who divorced him because of his, quote, transitioning to becoming a woman, he had full-on gender reassignment surgery, a sex change operation, including, forgive me, mutilating his male private parts that was all gone, and having, fake female breast implants installed on him, was a major reason why they ended up getting divorced over 5 years ago. They had 6 children together. 6. Many of those children were with his ex-wife in the stands at the hockey rink. His son was on the ice playing for one of the teams. He went there not to kill bystanders, strangers. He went there to massacre his family. He shot and killed his ex-wife. He killed his daughter. He shot several other family members. By the grace of God, he did not shoot on the ice at his son, trying to kill his son, but he killed his ex-wife. He killed one of his daughters. He sent several other of his children to the hospital. In a mass shooting spree. They are in very critical condition. There was a hero on the scene. Another father whose child was playing in the hockey tournament was able to wrestle one of the guns away from Robert Dorgan. However, Dorgan had another gun. And so once that gun was wrestled, he then grabbed the other gun and eventually shot himself and killed himself. Okay? He ate his own gun. So this was a mass shooting / suicide. Now, a couple of points need to be said. Number one, maybe it's because I know the Lynch Arena. We've seen a few games at the Lynch Arena. I've been to Pawtucket on several occasions. Providence, obviously. I've been to Providence countless times. This shooting hit home. That could have been potentially me in the stands. That could have been my family in the stands. And as the gunshots rang out, and now video is coming out from what happened, parents panicking, the poor players on the ice panicking. This was a family event. There were kids in the stands. Everybody was rushing for the exits. People rushed across the street to a nearby Walgreens and hid there in terror, fearing that he was going to come chase everyone else down and start executing people at the Walgreens or on the streets. Many of the hockey players literally jumped over the hurdles around the rink, the barriers, and ran into the locker room and hid in the locker room. It was terror. It was trauma. It was a massacre. And this poor ex-wife is now dead. His daughter is dead. 3 of his other children are in hospital and fighting for their lives. And this animal then shot himself and killed himself. Now, according to police reports and local media reports, this was a clearly deranged individual. He apparently began to transition over 6 years ago. He and his wife, in fact, they divorced over this. She eventually cited irreconcilable differences, but initially what she wrote down why they were getting a divorce or why she was demanding a divorce, she said about his gender reassignment surgery, her words, the fact that that she said, and this is how she put it, that according to Robert Dorgan, that his wife hated the person who stole her husband. That's what he said. My wife says she hates this is what he put up on X. My wife says she hates the person who stole her husband, i.e. him. I think it's extremely important to take special care of those who stand by us, listen and understand what they are going through for our sake. So he was furious that his wife and his family could not accept the fact that he had now, had a sex change operation and said that he was a woman and identified as a woman. So he then, according now to the divorce papers, she said he suffered from serious mental health issues. He was a narcissist. He was also had some kind of a serious personality disorder, you think, and that he was determined to go through the sex change operation. And because of that, when he announced to her and to their 6 kids that from this point forward, you're going to have not a mommy and a daddy, but 2 moms, she just said, I said, no, we're not doing this. And she ended up divorcing him. He was very bitter about the divorce. He was bitter about the way that his kids had a hard time accepting the fact that he had chopped off his private parts and put on female breasts and had an operation and was walking around with a wig and lipstick, even though you could see the stubble on his face. He's a big guy, broad-shouldered. You see the Adam's apple, big skull. I mean, he looks like a man. He's clearly a man. He was a biological man who was doing everything in his power to try to become a woman. And it destroyed him. According to one of his daughters, she went down to the police department and said, that was my father, i.e. Robert Dorgan, who committed this massacre. And she said he's mentally ill and he's been battling mental health issues for years and years and years. Now, this comes on the heels of another massacre, this time in British Columbia, up in Canada, where it was 9 kids at a school that were slaughtered, murdered, massacred, and 25 that were wounded by this time a much younger man, but still a biological man who thought he's a woman and transitioning to becoming a woman. It's been trans shooting after trans shooting after trans shooting. And when are we as a society going to finally say enough is enough? Instead of coddling these people, instead of trying to quote unquote affirm these people with their obvious serious mental illness, people like Robert Dorgan in the past would have been put into an insane asylum. They would have been put into, quote unquote, the nut house. Okay? They would have been taken, they would have been involuntarily placed for observation, for serious treatment, mental health treatment. Instead, we allow these people to roam our society and keep constantly coddling them, telling them these lies that they really are women when they're not. He was a biological man. He was a man who had a delusion of being a woman. And because we continue to indulge these obviously mentally ill people, 620, actually 621 now on the great WRKO, Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, 617-266-6868. This story is not just local. It's not just a Rhode Island, Massachusetts story or a New England story. It has now gone national because it's horrifying. This could happen anywhere to any of us at any time. And so one of the daughters who was not killed or wounded by Robert Dorgan in his his mass shooting attack yesterday at the hockey rink in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, said that her father battled mental health issues for years. According to her, quote, he was mentally ill and very, very sick. And he obviously was a sick man. He had gender reassignment surgery. This was 7-8 years ago. It was a full, complete gender reassignment surgery. His private parts were cut off. He began to transition into a woman. He took all kinds of hormones. He had artificial or female breasts put on himself. He was wearing a lipstick. He changed his name to Roberta. He identified as a woman. It created tremendous problems in their marriage. His wife, Rhonda, refused to accept it. I don't blame her. Many of their kids were the children were bothered by it. He kept insisting that they had to call him mommy, even though he was their father, and they grew up with him as the father. And it led to a divorce that he bitterly resented. He hated his wife for filing for divorce. And eventually they got a divorce. His father-in-law, when he found out about this gender transition surgery, the sex change operation, his father-in-law basically kicked him out of the house. Apparently, I guess they were living under the father-in-law in the father-in-law's home or one of his homes. I don't quite know the details, but he said, he doesn't want a quote-unquote tranny living under his roof. And so he kicked Dorgan out. Apparently, Dorgan then tried to have his father-in-law arrested. I'm not kidding. It didn't work. He then said that he accused his mother of assault, that she apparently assaulted him. This is what he claimed. Eventually, charges were dropped there as well. So what you see now, the picture that is being painted, is of a severely mentally ill man who went through a complete sex change operation, gender reassignment, who was pumped up on hormones, pumped up on drugs, permanently mutilated sexual parts of his body, and was struggling with the fact that his wife left him because she refused to accept it, and that his children were having a hard time dealing with it. And what was his response? His response was to go into a hockey rink during a tournament where his son was playing. In fact, his son was on the ice at 2:30 when he began to open fire. It was a targeted shooting. He went for his ex-wife first, then he went for his children. The wife is dead. One of his daughters is dead. 3 of the other children are critically wounded. The boy on the ice, thank the Lord, is safe. I don't even think he fired at the boy. Had it not been, or he may have eventually, but had it not been for the actions of another father there whose child was playing, whose child was on the hockey on the ice, who disarmed one of his guns, Dorgan grabbed a second gun. By the way, both guns were colored in pink. You can't make this stuff up. He then took that second gun and then shot himself, and he killed himself. Pandemonium broke out on the ice. There was panic, horror, trauma, and terror. And as I said in my opening monologue, and this really bears repeating, this is happening now on a monthly basis. Every single month now, there are mass transgender shootings. Here in the United States. In Canada, just a week ago, a crazed, much younger, Dorgan was 56. This guy was, he was a young man, let's put it that way. He was very young. He was transitioning to becoming a woman. He was a transgender individual, and he got a hold of his parents' weapons, and then went into a school and shot and killed 9 kids and wounded 25 others in one of the greatest massacres and mass shootings in Canadian history. And to show you how sick our society has become, the Canadian media, the European media, and the British Columbia police insisted on identifying and labeling that shooter as a woman, as a female, and as a she. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, 2 questions. Number 1, why are we deliberately pretending that mass transgender shootings are not taking place, that there isn't a problem? Why are we ignoring the problem? That's number 1. And number 2, what do we do about it? Because yesterday, another transgender shooter, this time a father, husband of a family who made a full transition and obviously caused serious problems in the marriage. It ended up costing them their marriage. They divorced, and he wanted to be called mama, telling the kids they needed to have 2 moms. They had a hard time accepting it. And in rage and in anger, he went to that hockey arena in Pawtucket, shot his ex-wife, killed her, shot his daughter, killed her, shot several of his other children. They're now in very critical condition before he then, killed himself, ate his own gun, as they say. So, my question to you, what do we do to finally stop the madness? Rob in Nevada. Thanks for holding, Rob, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. The media, and as far as I'm concerned, law enforcement are missing a great big elephant in the room. If this had been a conservative group, let me just cut to it. There's an organization called the Pink Pistols. It's huge in North America. Have your crew Google it. There's videos from them. There's chapters all throughout. Their motto is pick on someone your own caliber. They are all about rage. They are organized. I've been telling the police and the media about these people for a long time, and it goes ignored. I send it to news producers every way I can, and everyone ignores it. If this had been an NRA member or just a member of any group, we've got, I don't know how many Pink Pistol members have done these shootings, Jeff. If it had been a conservative group, every member would be hauled into court like it was January 6th. And they're ignoring this group.
Oh, there's no question. Rob, you're absolutely correct. And look, there's no question that, the shooter of Charlie Kirk, he was trans-Tifa, as they say. He was a transgender member of Antifa who, assassinated Charlie Kirk for his transgender lover. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on This is an epidemic. This is not, one crazy trans shooter or two crazy trans shooters. It's just, it's basically, it's getting down to the point it's getting once a month. And they don't stop. And the media just keeps sweeping it under the rug. Disturbed guy. Oh, crazy guy. Oh, that's the guns. Okay, let's ban the guns. No, you're right. This is a subculture that is very violent, frankly, mentally ill, clearly mentally ill. And we are not dealing with them. We're just ignoring them. And the more we ignore them, the more people are getting killed. They're getting massacred. It's a bloodbath. Now, look, I just want to stand back objectively, Rob, okay? Because Sandy made a superb point to me when we were off air during the break. She said, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, why did we not have mass trans shootings? Because if you wanted to get a transgender sex change operation, okay, what they call gender reaffirming care. So if you wanted to be you're a man, you want to become a woman, or you're a woman, you want to become a man. Before you could even have a sex change operation, you had to go through an extensive battery of tests. They say, no, you have to live like a woman. Do you really want to live like a woman? Try it. You have to do it. Or do you want to live like a man? You'd have to get extensive therapy. In other words, is it really because you feel like a woman? Is that why? Or is there something more seriously wrong with you and you're just claiming or using the fact that you think if you, have a sex change operation, suddenly become a woman or become a man, all your problems will go away. So it would take a long time to be able to have your private parts mutilated and to have artificial parts put on you. So a lot of the seriously mentally ill people were weeded out. We're not doing that anymore. Basically, it's almost as easy now as going to a Chick-fil-A or getting a Big Mac at McDonald's. I feel like a woman and I want my sex change operation and I want it now. Now, and the other thing is, and I said this to Sandy, I said, look at what, we just throw it so cavalierly, sex change operation, gender reaffirming care, whatever. Think about here. Let's just take this guy, Robert Dorgan, okay? He's a biological man. He's a big guy, broad-shouldered. I mean, he's got I'm telling you, I don't have stubble on my face as thick as his, okay? He's got a big Adam's apple. He's built like a tank. Okay, he's a big guy. He got married. He had 6 children with his wife. I'm sorry, not to be crude, but obviously he was performing in the bedroom. Well, my point being, he was a man. He was capable of doing, quote unquote, manly things. So, and then you raise your children, and that's daddy. And the poor woman, his wife Rhonda, thinks, well, yeah, that's Robert. That's my husband. And then something begins to happen to Robert. And Robert now says, no, I'm Roberta. But I'm not just Roberta, that I'm a cross-dresser and I like to put on a dress and some lipstick and long hair or whatever and nails. No. I'm going to do the full Monty, as they say. So then he takes blockers. He takes hormones. He then chops off his private part. Okay? It's gone. He puts on an artificial female part. Forgive me, an artificial vagina. Then he starts taking massive estrogen, and he's got to suppress the testosterone. You imagine doing that to your body, and then you're putting on artificial female breasts. Now, what do you think this is? Forget whether he was mentally ill before. Okay, let's just put that off the table for a second. What do you think all of this does to a human brain, to a human body? Imagine, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be gross, but think about this. To the men out there, what you have between your private parts chopped off. Think about that. And then an artificial female part placed on. And then your chest, parts of it chopped off, and then artificial breasts installed on you. And now you've got estrogen just being pump. They're just pumping that nonstop. And suddenly you've got long hair, you've got lipstick, you've got long nails. No, you're a woman. You're a woman now, and you want everybody to call you a woman. Look at how disruptive it is to everyone around. To your friends, to your family, to your spouse, to your children. You've destroyed their lives. You've turned their lives upside down. This woman did not marry, the wife, she did not marry a woman. She married a man. She's a heterosexual woman. She's going to now wake up with a fake woman with fake body parts all over her, private parts. I mean, just think about it. The children, all of a sudden, daddy's not just a cross-dresser. Daddy's no longer daddy. He's mommy. And then they say, we just can't wrap our mind around this. And this lunatic says, well, because you won't fully accept me, boom, 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 I'm going to massacre everybody. This guy is effing sick. He's sick. And what I suspect happened, and I'm going to give you the final word, Rob, is that, and this is what happens with so many transgender people. Okay, the hormones will make me better. No, the hormones don't make me better. Okay, well, then I'll start wearing the lipstick and the hair. And no, that doesn't make me better. So let me chop off let me permanently change my body, mutilate my body, and that still doesn't make me feel better. Well, think about it now. Now you've done all this to yourself, and it's irreversible. Irreversible. And it still hasn't solved what's bothering you. And that's when they start to lash out. I fear that, to me, is the reason. If you want to know why I think they start doing these shootings, it was supposed to fix me, but this didn't fix me. Okay, the Democrats are trying to blame the gun. Don't blame the gun. Blame the trans shooter. Okay, blame the transgender guy who pulled the trigger. And that would be obviously Robert Dorgan, went by Roberta. And I just want to describe to you, there are images now of him, pictures of him. He used to go to the hockey rink to watch his son play hockey before he, gunned them all down yesterday. This is a man with massive tattoos on his right arm. He wears glasses. His face, a lot of stubble, an Adam's apple. He's got still a lot of muscle on him, but he's got fake female breasts. And how do I say this? You know when a guy wears a tank top, a woman wears a tank top, but you can see the bra kind of underneath the tank top? Well, he's with these tank tops, pink, with a pink bra underneath. Just to give you the image of this guy. And he likes to wear necklaces. He likes to wear, you name it. He has painted nails, makeup, a lot of makeup. Anyway. And so there are images. There's one of him. I hope it's not one of his children, but he's holding a baby, feeding the baby a milk bottle, but he's in a dress, okay, a very short dress. And it's odd because you see that he's got big arms, strong, powerful arms. And one of them is covered in a complete tattoo. And so he's got this dress on with blue nails. It's just weird. And he's acting like a woman, but he's clearly a man. And he's being motherly by feeding this baby. But anyway, he's obviously, you just look at pictures of him and you could tell he's obviously extremely, he's very, very disturbed. A very disturbed individual. His family said he was quote unquote sick. That was the term that they used. Mentally ill, narcissistic, had a personality disorder. They said he just didn't care about anybody but himself and just kept going further and further into transitioning and wanted to be seen as a woman, wanted to be identified as a woman, wanted us to call him mom, and couldn't accept the fact that his wife had left him. And he just got angrier and angrier and angrier. And then yesterday went berserk. And so he shot his ex-wife. She's dead. He shot apparently 2 of his daughters. One is dead. The other one is in critical condition. And then I believed he shot several of his sons as well. Not the son that was playing hockey, which is, I think, one of the youngest in the family. But still, he either killed or shot 5 family members before he then killed himself. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, very quick. You can text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470. This is from 781. Jeff, and the Democrats blame the gun. For some reason, these people who transition don't understand the pain and suffering of those who have loved them in their family. Instead, their ego allows them to blame the family for the discomfort and not the person who transitions. And if we find fault, they say we are transphobic. Then the Democrats defend the trans people. This is sickness. Well, it's not just that they defend them, okay? It's that it's even worse than that, is that they glorify them. They celebrate them. They champion them. They almost idealize them. The trans flag is everywhere. In schools, they are aggressively pushing the transgender agenda. Public schools in particular are horrible. So they're almost encouraging girls to become boys, boys to become girls, or to become both, or to become they, or to become, it doesn't stop. So, as I said in my opening monologue, we're almost encouraging mental illness. We're coddling mental illness. We're almost glorifying mental illness. And now we have all of these mentally ill people running around who are convinced that they were born in the wrong body. And yet, when they have full gender reassignment surgery, which is extremely painful, and remember, it's irreversible, it's gone. Once you cut off your private parts, there's no going back. And they're taking these hormones, which is clearly having a serious emotional, psychological effects on them. It's making them aggressive. It's making them violent. It's making them angry. God knows what else, depressed. No one's even looking at all this. And the bodies are just piling up. It's one massacre after another, after another, after another. Let me just read one more, and then I'm going to go right back to the phone lines. This is from Peter on Messenger. Jeff, when will we finally pass common sense trans laws? Mentally ill folks need to be locked up in institutions for the criminally insane. Well, we used to lock people like this up. Now we turned them into poster children for our, that our own kids should emulate and follow. And when they've done everything the Dems and the libs and the media tell them to do. And this guy did it. He had the breasts of a woman. He had the private parts of a woman, the estrogen of a woman. He dressed like a woman. He called himself a woman. For all intents and purposes, he was no longer Robert Dorgan. He became Roberta. He gave himself a brand new personality. And yet he was still miserable. Because in the end, he was sold a lie. Human nature, biological reality, objective biological reality cannot be changed. 2 + 2 = 4. When you tell him it equals 5, that's when the problems begin. And he realized he did all this to himself, destroyed himself, damaged his body, put himself through unbelievable suffering and pain. Life-altering operation after life-altering operation. And he realized he's never going to be a woman because he was born a man. And he lost his wife and in many ways the respect of his children. And so he couldn't deal with it, so he killed him and then killed himself. 617-266-6868. Dave in Lawrence. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Dave?
Jeff, it's a cloudy day, no sun today. They say it's supposed to rain or something, but, Jeff, what are these doctors who are doing these transgender surgeries going to realize that God put us together the way we're supposed to be put together? Jeff, it's getting to be demonic. It's an abomination what they're doing to the bodies today. Jeff, they're not thinking straight. All these doctors look at is the money. They don't care. They don't care about the scriptures, and they're all going to pay for it. One way or the other, they're going to meet their maker. And what are they going to do when they pass away and they stand before God, Jeff, saying, well, and God says to them, why did you do what you did to the body? Because God created the body the way he wanted us to be created, Jeff. Because it's in the scriptures, I knew you when you were still in your mother's womb.
Oh, Dave, I think you're not 100. I think you're 1,000% correct. And we're going to look back upon this age as a very barbaric age. The way we look back upon, how we, the people who suffered from depression or whatever had mental health issues, and they gave him a lobotomy. Literally just to start chopping off parts of their brains. How absolutely barbaric, or electric shock therapy. When we look back on that, an earlier age, we said, what were people thinking? This is unforgivable on so many levels. And the only positive thing, the only, silver lining in the cloud, in that dark cloud, is you have they're called detransitioners. You now have person after person. It's either both men and women, both, who are saying, I was told in high school, I was told in college, I was told by my doctors, you really have to do this. And in fact, what the doctors do is, this is how they blackmail the parents into accepting it. The doctors tell the parents, what do you want? Let's say it's a girl, okay? You had a, baby girl, a female, and, now thinks that she's a man or a boy. Do you want a boy? Or do you want a dead girl? In other words, she's going to kill herself. Like, the choice is either your daughter is going to commit suicide or you let her transition to becoming a male. And so many parents said we felt almost emotionally blackmailed, pressured, intimidated. I don't want my daughter to die. I don't want my daughter to commit suicide, or vice versa. The son, you want a dead son, or do you want a new daughter? Like, take your pick. And they're like, well, okay. I mean, I don't want my son to, kill himself. So, and then they realized that it was all a lie. And as they got a little bit older, it didn't fix what was wrong with them. They really didn't want to be the opposite sex. They didn't want to be, say, a man didn't want to be a girl, a woman. A woman didn't want to be a man. But the problem now, it's too late. Because everything has been chopped off. It's irreversible. Even the hormones that they take. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be so explicit at 7:01 in the morning. You can never enjoy sexual intimacy again. That's one of the effects of these hormones that they take. It's a sex drive destroyer. So you can never have sexual intimacy. You can never get pregnant, or you can never get someone else pregnant. I could go on. And these hormones are devastating in terms of your health, how you feel, your mental state. Their lives have been utterly destroyed with the full blessing of the medical establishment. The full blessing. And you're right. They're raking in billions of dollars now in cash. It's a lot like COVID. The medical establishment lied to us about COVID. Why? For money. Now they're lying to us about transgenderism for why? Money. And, you quoted the Bible. Well, let me give you another quote, Dave. The love of money is the root of all evil. And what we're watching now is evil, it's satanic, it's diabolical. Final word to you, Dave.
Jeff, I've gotten a few in the car. Why, I don't know, but sometimes I got to deal with them. I got to deal with so-called ladies who are definitely lesbian all the way, Jeff. And their attitudes toward anything, no matter what it is all bogus. And Jeff, I'll tell you, I couldn't work the other day because I refused to pick up a couple people, and I knew what they were, and I didn't want to deal with it. Jeff, I lost a day's pay.
I'm sorry to hear that, Dave. I'm so sorry to hear that. But no, look, I've run into many so-called transgender. We used to call them cross-dressers, okay? Or, transsexuals or whatever. But no, I've bumped into several transgender people. They're obviously mentally ill. You can tell just when you talk to them. I mean, well, think about it. They reject their own body. Or, okay, fine. I've always said this. You want to have a sex change? It's a free country. You want to have a sex change operation. You're an adult. You know the consequences. You've gone through therapy. You know exactly what's going to be, what life is going to be like for you. You've been told all the side effects, everything, how it's irreversible. Hey, it's a free, on your dime, not on my dime. You want to go and have a sex change operation. This is America, man. Do what you want. But when you have people who are, men convinced they're women, or women who are convinced that they're men, or that they're both, or that they're neither, or that they're a man in the morning, I'm not kidding, a woman in the afternoon, and both or nothing or multiple people in the evening, we used to call that multiple personality disorder, i.e. you. If you think you're multiple different people, you need mental help. Instead, they're being encouraged to continue to think, yeah, you really are, you are 3 people, you are 4 people, you are 5 people. And look, I'm staring now. This is a magazine for transgender people. There is a transgender person holding I think it's an AR-15. Anyway, holding a gun. Okay, a dangerous firearm. And it says that the Trump administration is waging war on the trans community, and that now transgendered people are arming and they're getting ready to, quote unquote, fight back. And this is one of the leading magazines of the transgender community. So don't tell me that they're not fomenting violence. They're clearly fomenting violence. Now, this wasn't anti-Trump violence. This whack job, this savage, this evil creature, okay, this animal, shot his ex-wife and his kids. But the other thing about the trans subculture, look at how violent it is. And look at how it celebrates violence. And I don't mean just punching somebody in the face. I'm talking guns, knives, murders, killings, assassinations. It's inundated with that kind of stuff. In any other age, these are the people that would be locked up in an insane asylum and given proper treatment. Now, we're just letting them walk the streets. And people are dying. Dave, thank you for that call. Lynn in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Lynn, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff, how are you?
Very good. How are you, Lynn?
Good. I've called on many subjects. I've done a lot of different professions. So I worked in infertility clinics, and so basically I've been wanting to call about, so in your alphabet that we say with everyone, LBGAQ and all this, there is a letter I for intersex. These people back in the 50s, so before ultrasounds and before people knew what they were having for a baby, if you remember, I know my parents, when we were born, the doctor, you're waiting, did I have a boy or a girl? Well, when when a baby was born, sometimes the external organs, he couldn't tell if it was a boy or a girl. And this is all natural. So this is your intersexed. And what happened was the doctors didn't know what it was. So it could be a female part that was a little larger, which could look like a male part, and vice versa in a way. And so at some point, I don't know the answer because I was actually writing a book and I was going to do it on transgenderism, but I'm glad I didn't because it would have been very controversial back when I was deciding to do it. But these young people, as they grew up, whatever the doctor kind of decided, now these are not hermaphroditic. Hermaphrodites are people that are born with both female and male organs, where they can actually, an earthworm is a hermaphrodite because it can have children on its own. You don't have a male earthworm or a worms or a female. They just reproduce on their own. But anyways, getting back, these people, I don't know if the doctor decided what they thought they were, so the parents took them home and brought them up like a little girl, little boy. But then as they grew up, and probably puberty in their own way, they were the ones truly hiding in the closets because they weren't accepted. And if you go back and look, again, this is back in the 50s and so forth, and possibly 60s, people, there was a lot of suicide with them. Now, getting back to infertility a little bit, when a woman goes through IVF, we want to produce as many eggs as possible. So they're going to be removed from the body for the IVF procedure. So they increase estrogen to their body, and this is what they're taking every day. And females have female hormones and males have male hormones. When you increase that estrogen, the ovaries produce quite a few eggs, and the females, I had one patient would say to me, Lynn, I put signs in my kitchen saying to her husband, PMS times 1,000 or 1,000,000 on what these hormones do.
Oh, you're dead on. Oh, Lynn, I'm so happy you called and mentioned that. Look, we never did in vitro. We adopted, but we were thinking about it. We didn't do it, but we were thinking about it because we couldn't have children. And so we went to an in vitro clinic just to, talk and just get informed. And they said, listen, we want you to know your wife's going to be taking a lot of estrogen because, we want her to produce as many eggs as possible. And that is going to have a real emotional effect on her. We're like, oh, really? It's exactly what you said. No, it'll be like, PMS, but 10 times, 100 times worse. There's going to be, mood swings. There's going to be inexplicable rages. There's going to be fits of anger for no reason. Like, we just want you to know that this does come with side effects. Now, people have good results. They get, it works, blah, 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 blah. But I want you to know this is not going to be easy, both on obviously the poor woman, but even on the partner, on the husband, because your wife is sometimes going to start yelling at you for no reason. And you're going to say, like, what's going on here? Like, honey, are you losing your mind or whatever? So the point is, now that's just for in vitro fertilization. Can you just imagine for, sex change operations, for gender reassignment? And, the thing about in vitro, okay, it stops. In other words, you get your eggs, eventually they're fertilized. In other words, you're not always on these estrogen boosters. The thing with these transgender people, the sex change operations, it's always boost after boost, shot after shot, whether it's testosterone or estrogen. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, here's a truth bomb from 617. Anyway, by the way, the text line is on fire. 70470. Another trans massacre yesterday, transgender mass shooting. This time, 15 minutes from my house. This was in Pawtucket, Rhode Island at a hockey arena. There was a high school hockey tournament, a game going on, and a father, or I guess he was a father, Robert Dugan is his name, or Dogan, however he pronounced his last name. He, 56 years old, he transitioned to become a woman. The whole thing, the plumbing, everything was changed, and was not accepted by his ex-wife. She divorced him. The kids did not like it that he insisted that they had two mommies, not a mommy and a father. So they were distant from him. He was angry. He wanted to lash out. He went to the hockey rink. He murdered his ex-wife in cold blood. He killed his daughter. He shot several of his other children. They are now in very critical condition. And then he ate his gun and killed himself. Another trans shooter, another trans massacre. And this is what 617 says. And I think 617 hits the nail on the head. Jeff, let's stop kidding each other. There is no such thing as being quote unquote transgender. These mass murders are being perpetrated by cross-dressing homosexuals taking drugs that alter their already unbalanced brain chemistry. The hormones have been devastating and driving many of them to commit unspeakable crimes and unspeakable acts of evil. The Uvalde shooter, the Georgia school shooter, the Iowa shooter, the Philadelphia shooter, the Colorado Springs shooter, the Nashville Christian school shooter, the Aberdeen shooter, the two Denver school shooters, the shooting in Canada, and now yesterday's shooting in Rhode Island. All of them committed by people who were cross-dressing homosexuals taking drugs and hormones. Why is the media not reporting the truth? You're dead on, 617. And there's big money now in these drugs, these hormones that they're giving them. We're talking billions of dollars. Sex change, transgender, these gender-affirming care operations, the puberty blockers, everything. There's a lot of money. There's a huge complex now involved. And I'm telling you, this is not going to end until we address the real root of the problem. And the real root of the problem is, if it dangles, you're a boy. If it doesn't dangle, you're a girl. It's really that simple. You're born a man, you're born a woman. You're born a male, you're born a female. Even your chromosomes, your DNA are fundamentally different between men and women. And the more we continue to feed this fantasy and indulge these delusions and these clearly mentally ill people and then jack them up on these drugs and puberty blockers and hormones, never mind all-out sex change operations, you're going to get a lot more shootings. It's not going to stop. It's only going to get worse. Dave in Pennsylvania, our constitutionalist correspondent out in the Pittsburgh area. Thanks for holding, Dave, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Very good.
Yeah, good, Jeff. I'm off from work, so I'm taking care of my wife. She's recovering really well from her knee replacement surgery. So good. I sent you the picture and messenger. She's doing great. I mean,
nice to hear that, Dave.
Yeah, well, thank God I get good friends like you to pray for her. Hey, Jeff, first of all, God made Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve, okay? And, Jeff, the breaking news, Jesse Jackson just passed away. I don't know if you heard that.
Yes, I did. I saw it. It's everywhere. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And, Dave, look, I have a policy. I don't like to comment or speak ill of people who have just passed away.
Right.
I was not a fan of Jesse Jackson. Everybody knows
Same
that. Here. But out of respect for his family, I'm not going to trash this guy today. I'm not a liberal. Honestly, Dave, that's what liberals do. So look, he had children, he had a wife, he obviously had family and friends who loved him and adored him, and I'm not going to stand there and run this guy down. I may talk about it a little bit later, but if I have nothing good to say about a person who just passed away, I don't say anything. But please go ahead, Dave.
I just wanted to let you know. I don't know if you heard, but Jeff, first of all, all of a sudden the leftists they're against the Second Amendment because for Alex Preddy up in Minnesota, Jeff, they were bragging, well, he's got a right to carry a gun. Now they're against the guns again, Jeff. It only fits the narrative. These kind of Democrats are like an off and on switch. First they're on for something if it equates their agenda, and then when they're not, they flick it back off, Jeff. I mean, that's the Bible says in the book of James, the Gospel of James, which is the brother of Jesus, his real earthly brother, that a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. You want to talk about being double-minded? I mean, Jeff, when you get the junk chopped off, I don't mean to be derogatory, when you get your what's that the Lord gave you and created you with, of course people are going to go crazy. I don't know, Jeff, how to put it. It's just I feel bad for that family and all that, the poor people that lost their lives. But again, Jeff, the left keeps to try to justify these. Jeff, the first ones that, again, and I say this almost every time I call, Jeff, the left is for tolerance and diversity. They preach it, but they're the last ones to practice it, Jeff. If you're in their agenda and you agree with them, and everything is good on the table with them, laying the cards on the table, like you say, the Germans say, Jeff, not meaning to steal your thunder. It's okay with the left, but Jeff, this isn't normal. It's not normal, Jeff, somebody wanting to have their what's cut off, and then this happens.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Okay, a lot of people are making a very, very good point, especially on the text line. They're saying, Jeff, just look at it from the poor family's point of view. This poor woman who's now dead, his ex-wife, she thought she was marrying a man. She apparently fell in love with that man. They ended up having 6 beautiful children together. Again, a man. And then he wakes up one morning and says he's a woman. And everybody now has to just say, okay, that's fine, go ahead. And he starts wearing lipstick, and he starts wearing long nails, and he's, nail polish, and he's wearing dresses and high heels. And, okay, what started off maybe as a bit of a game or a fetish or whatever, you realize, no, he's not kidding around. He wants to be known as Roberta. He's not Robert Dogan. He's Roberta Esposito. And then he ends up having an actual sex change operation, the whole thing. And suddenly now, biologically, he's cut off his private parts, which is genital mutilation. He's put on an artificial female body part in between his legs. He's got female fake breasts. And he's taking estrogen shot after estrogen shot after estrogen shot. And it's causing his hormones to go absolutely haywire. It's chemically altering the balance in his brain. He's got all kinds of rages or depression or mental health issues because God knows what the drugs are doing to him. And he's telling his kids, you may think I'm your dad. I'm not your dad. You're going to call me mom. Whether you like it or not, I'm your mom. And by the way, he's got bigger arms than I do. He was a weightlifter. I think he still was up to the end. You got to see him. The pictures that are coming out. The guy's got, I'm telling you, he's got, what are those, 14, 15-inch arms? He's got a pair of guns, as they say. The guy was big, muscular. Huge arms. A weightlifter. If you can imagine his massive tattoos down his entire right arm. And, as I said, stubble, that thick stubble. That 5 o'clock shadow. He always had that 5 o'clock shadow. He's got thicker facial hair than I do. I'm just being honest with you. And all of a sudden, we're all supposed to pretend that you're a woman? Think of the shock, what it did to the wife, what it did to his children. It led to their divorce. It led to the family breakup. They were never the same again. The children are now, the survivors, the few survivors are saying he was mentally ill for years. We had all kinds of incidents. He was very sick. It just made our life hell. And my mom supported all of us. And, one of her kids, her youngest, was at a hockey tournament, and she's there to support her son on the ice. It was apparently a tournament for seniors, okay, in northern Providence, that whole area. And the whole family shows up to support, their brother or their son, their sibling. And this animal, out of the blue, with his two stupid pink-colored guns, and his female long hair dyed with his lipstick and his eyeshadow and his blue nails, because somehow everything that he did didn't fix him. It just made it worse. And then you take it out on your family and you massacre them? For what? Go to a hockey game? Can you imagine what this poor family went through? See, nobody ever looks at it from the victim's point of view. And all these Democrats and all the media and all these libs, that's all they do is go on about, trans people need to be affirmed. Trans rights, they're human rights. And we should be accommodating to them. And the problem is we're just not accommodating enough. No, we have been too accommodating. That's the problem. And someone should have put this guy in his place a long time ago. No, you know what? You're not going to abandon your family. No, your wife is completely reasonable to expect that she married a man, she's going to and slept with a man, and had children with a man, that you would stay a man. Now, look, I'm not going to force you to stay in a marriage and be a father if you don't want to. But don't stand there and expect everybody to sympathize you, because he was on X all the time. And he was whining like a child on X, saying he needs more support. People like him don't get enough support. Like he's the victim in all this. This is from 603. My bad. Jeff, you and I are both longtime devoted husbands and fathers. We both have wives and children who highly depend on us in those two roles. So let me approach this from that angle and appeal to you as a peer. Let's put aside the shooting aspect for a moment. As you say, let that go. Can you imagine the degree of selfishness and self-centeredness it must take to put your own desires over the welfare and responsibility that you have to every member of your family? You have taken a vow to a woman to put her needs and her interests above your own. And you've brought children into this world with the responsibility of considering how your actions will affect their lives and well-being. That's your primary responsibility and concern. End of story. Full stop. Instead, like in Rhode Island, we have a man who has put his own desires above everyone else's needs, who he was responsible for, and the fact that he was willing to shoot them all is emblematic of this selfish mindset and attitude. When you become a father and a husband, and you accept that commitment, it's no longer all about you. I love you, 603, in a non-sexual way. I love you in a non-sexual way. I don't know how else to say this. I say this to people all the time. When you get married, you take on responsibilities as a husband and, of course, as a wife. It's two-way street. And, of course, when you have children, you have fundamental duties and responsibilities to each other. And I'm telling you as a man, this is the way I approach marriage and fatherhood. It's not about me. I'm telling you, it's not about me. When I got married, I walked down that aisle. I said, I'm going to put Grace's needs, her interests above mine. I'm going to be her protector. I'm going to be her provider. I'm going to do the best I can for her. Same thing with my two kids. Now, do I need a break once in a while? Do I need some, man cave time because of the pressures? Yeah, sure, of course. I'm not a machine. I'm a human being. But that I would put my family through something like this and abandon them the way he did. That in a nutshell, that's the problem with everything that's wrong with liberalism. Me. All the time. Me. Well, it's not about you. There are some people that rely on you, that depend on you. Sometimes it's about putting others first. During the holidays, what was it, a couple of months ago, during the Christmas break, we took a short cruise from Tampa Bay. Okay, just the family. And we were we went to Cozumel, and then we went 2 stops in Bahamas. It was a short cruise. It wasn't a very big cruise. Anyway, long story short, as we're disembarking from the boat to, get on shore at the Bahamas, you have to, you go through the ship, you go through down at the bottom of the ship, and you have to swipe your card. And they have to look at you and make sure that the card and the ID on the card matches the face that's leaving the ship temporarily. And so, Ashton goes first, and I'm there with Grace and the kids. Ashton goes first, and Grace is talking to one of the staffers on the Celebrity Cruise Line. And she says, yeah, that's my son. Okay. Then it's Ava. She goes, yeah, that's our daughter. Okay. Then she goes, and she's next. She swipes, they swipe the card. He looks at the picture, looks at her. She says, I'm the wife. And then it's my turn. And then I swipe, and she says, yeah, that's my husband. And I go to the guy at the Celebrity Cruise Line. I said, no, scratch husband, put down slave. And he starts to laugh. I think he was from India. Don't quote me on that, but I think he was from India. Anyway, and he started laughing, and he said, yeah, I know how you feel. I have a wife and 2 kids as well. I said, doesn't it feel like slavery sometimes? But anyway, if they're happy, I'm happy. And then we just disembarked from the ship and had a very nice day in the Bahamas. Doing what? Doing what Grace and the kids wanted to do. But let that go. The point being, to the previous text that I read, this is what husbands and fathers do. Or at least what they should do, which is put their families first. And their children and their wives first. That's the point. That's what makes you a man. And, for this guy to be so selfish, leave aside the murder part. But, what is it, 6, 7, 8 years? And, destroy the family, have this marriage be completely disrupted and end in divorce, traumatize the kids because he's got to go around and think that he's a woman. I'm sorry, it's disgusting. And then, of course, it showed you how much he loved his wife and kids when he put a bullet in them. And to me, that's, in a nutshell, that sums up everything that's wrong. Everything that's wrong with transgenderism, everything that's wrong with the way the media is trying to cover up for them. And look, the media narrative is now, why are we having guns being brought into arenas? It's the gun. And that there should be metal detectors at these arenas for high school. It's not the gun. That's not the issue. It's the phenomenon of sick transgendered individuals committing mass atrocities and mass shootings. Like we saw again yesterday in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Agree, disagree? Frank in Woburn. Thanks for holding, Frank. And welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
Very good. How are you, Frank?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Frank, hold on. We got to try to reconnect with you, my friend. You started off sounding like a human being, and then you start like Chat GPT or AI or something. You sound almost like a robot. All right, Mike, can we reconnect with Frank? Can Frank sound like a normal person? Frank?
Yes.
Keep going, Frank. Give me another sentence.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now you're normal. Now you're a human. Keep going, my friend.
I got to tell you, Jeff, I brag to everybody about you. I've been listening to you. You're like an addiction. I can't wait. I get up before 6 o'clock and I'm looking at the minutes, and I won't turn on WRKO until you come on. And then when your show is over at 10 o'clock, boom, I shut it off, because I'll be brutally honest with you, because it's good to be frank. I think you're light years ahead of everybody. I just think the world of you. I listen to you every day for 10 years. I don't know if you've been wrong once. And so why would I waste my time on fake news? If I want to know what's going on in the world, I just listen to you, and that's it. And I tell everybody about you.
Thank you.
It's true.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you. Frank, I want to thank you very much. It means a lot to me. Frank, the governor of Rhode Island has now addressed the state. Listen to what he said. I want to get your reaction. The governor of Rhode Island has now come out and said, this is Dan McKee, saying that the guns are the issue after what happened yesterday in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. And so now he's saying that we have to have even more gun control in Rhode Island, that there isn't enough gun control, and that we need even metal detectors at these hockey rinks, and that he's going to now do everything in his power to tighten gun laws even more, and to put in metal detectors at sporting events, high school sporting events, college sporting events, all across Rhode Island. Quote, to many Rhode Islanders, they know what it feels like. Too many Rhode Islanders know what it feels like to lose a loved one to gun violence. Not once did he address the mental illness, the transgenderism, none of that. It was guns, 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 guns. What say you, Frank?
What say me? I'll tell you what say me. I think the party that's restricted on guns, God forbid, I think many Americans in this country realize the enemy of the citizens of the United States, and it's the Democrat Party. So why would they want the American people to have guns?
Well, that's a very good point. Frank, that's an extremely good point. Frank, do you think we're finally hitting a tipping point where...
You know what, Jeff? I love you in a non-sexual way. You are the ace of WRKO. I can't say it enough times. And I love your callers like Mags in New Hampshire, Jerry on the Cape, and Russ from Boston. These guys are brilliant. I'm not as smart as these guys, but I told you before, I have common sense. And you asked me, you said, Frank, I know you disagree with a lot of the policies of the Democrat Party, but if you had to pick one thing about the Democrats that you don't like, what would it be? And I told you, can they just stop lying?
Drop the mic. Drop the mic. Drop the mic. Frank, thank you very much for that call. Look, they're lying to us now again. They're lying to us now again. You know? And by the way, most people in Rhode Island don't even know that the shooter, Robert Dorgan, the murderer, that animal, was transgender. They have no clue. They have no clue that he was mentally unstable, that he was transgender, that he was bitter, that when he converted to whatever, transitioned to becoming a woman, that his wife couldn't accept it, and that she eventually filed for divorce, and that he was bitter and angry, and that his children, he wanted them to call him their mother, and they wouldn't, like, why? You're our dad. Why should we call you mommy? There's none of that. They have no idea. According to what the media is feeding them, and this clown of a governor, according to what they're saying is, nah, this guy had 2 guns. He shouldn't have, by the way, colored pink, but don't even mention that. And he just had 2 guns, and he came in there with 2 guns, and he just shot people because he could. Because, the guns. It's the guns. It's always the guns. Unless you're Alex Preddy, then it's not the gun. If you're Alex Preddy, then they love the Second Amendment. See? So it depends. It depends what day, what moment, what hour, what second you catch them at. But now it's the guns, the guns, the guns, the guns. I mean, how do these people live with themselves? Like, the American people deserve to know the truth. And to show you how sick Robert Dorgan was, Roberta, as he kept calling himself, Roberta Esposito, he gave himself a new identity. Okay, so Robert Dorgan, the day before the shooting, goes on X and says, quote unquote, I love my 6 kids so much, I would die for them. This is what he's claiming. Oh, my kids. He was going on about, you think we trans people don't love our kids? Oh, we love them. I would die for them. That's how much I love them. Yeah, 24 hours later, you killed them. You killed them. They died because of you. You killed them. That's how much you loved them. You piece of, I can't say it. You POS. 617-266-6868. Kiva. Is it Kiva? Kiva in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Kiva. No, I just want to make sure, Mike. I know we've spoken to Kiva, but...
yeah, it is Kiva.
Yeah, Kiva, go ahead. Sorry, because Mike mangles, sometimes you'll misspell a name. I just want to make sure it's the right one. Kiva, please go ahead. Thanks for holding and welcome.
And thank you for having me on the show. I've been on the show a few times, but I am transgender, and I just want to say this. Number one, I hate that a-hole. I hope he rots in hell for what he did. But to draw this correlation, to say that, I get it. There's statistics here that are now starting to show up that there's transgender shooters. But by your own argument, if these guys are just what's hanging between their legs and they're actually men, then now the statistics become men are the perpetrators of all these violent shootings. Very few women. If you look at those statistics, there's a couple, 3 women versus hundreds of men. So, by the argument saying this guy was a man, then now what you're doing is you're condemning all men to being violent and toxic. Now, I'm not going to go down that road because I'm a statistician. I'm an engineer. And I'm not going to draw a false correlation between shooters, mentally unbalanced people, and transgenderism. It's just not there statistically or scientifically, and we're painting a large group of people with a large brush. And now, because of this stuff that's being said right now and some of your audience members, this puts a target on my back because there's going to be...
Please don't swear, Kiva. You can say whatever you want, but please don't swear. Anyway, so... but go ahead, Kiva. If you can, please just don't swear. That's it, because I'll get fined by the FCC. So go ahead, please finish your thought.
Thank you. I apologize for that. This is emotional for me. So because we're also, I'm not going to have this discussion on the difference between gender and sexual preference. I'm neither. I'm asexual. I have no sexual preference. So I can't correlate even saying that I'm a homosexual or gay to my gender. I came out later in life. I have kids. I'm a parent. I love my kids. I never shoot them. That guy is a total, as you said, POS. He deserves to rot in hell along with anybody else that perpetrates crimes against other people with guns and stuff. But I'm certainly not going to blame guns either. But let's not blame trans people for this. We're not mentally defective. These people that kill their families are mentally defective. And it doesn't matter what gender they are. They're just disturbed individuals. And you can't even make that argument about the guns. Now, this guy went off and did this. And now I'm hearing what I'm hearing on the show, and this hurts me because it's saying that I'm now a threat to society. This is the rhetoric that I've been hearing now for the last year or so, that somehow trans people are the root of all evil now, and the scourges and terrorists, and killers and everything else. I don't know what was going on in that guy's marriage or with his family. He was just a messed up loser. But I'm plugged in with thousands and thousands of transgender people, and none of them are killers or child molesters or pedophiles or any of that stuff, which we see all the time. Pedophiles with priests and pastors and Boy Scout leaders, and even the guy in the White House is a pedophile. Let's face it, Bill Clinton too, Bill Gates.
No, I hear you. No, look, Kiva, look, and you're not going to like my answer, and I don't mean this in an insulting way. I really mean this with true, all due respect and a respect for your dignity and your humanity. Okay, so you're going to take it the wrong way, but you really shouldn't. I think you're being overly sensitive, and you're overly personalizing the issue. This is not about you. This has nothing to do with you. You've called this show at least several times over the last year. You're always very rational, very reasonable, very logical. You strike me as a very peaceful, law-abiding individual. Yes, there are many in the transgender community just like you. There's no question. But it's sort of like when we talk about Islamic terrorism, or when we talk about, there's just there's, other issues. People say, well, you're painting a broad brush. No, we're not painting a broad brush. There are many Muslims who are very peaceful. The problem is there is a disproportionate number of terrorists who call themselves Muslims, who identify as Muslims. We can't bury our head in the sand. It's the same thing with these transgender mass shootings. It's not that all transgender people are mass shooters. That's false. That'd be ridiculous to say that. But we're looking now at mass shooting. I mean, I just named examples of school after school after school. There was another one up in Canada just a week ago, 18 years old. Usually, you're right, they're usually homosexual or whatever, men. And he was transitioning. He was quote unquote transgender, very angry, very bitter, clearly mentally very ill. And 10 people were killed and 25 injured, including kids. There's got to be a point where you say there is a disproportionate number of mass shooters who are in the trans community or identify with the trans community. It may be a violent subculture, but it's there. And so I don't think you're doing yourself any favors by saying, well, this has put a target on my back. No, it doesn't put a target on your back. What it should do is alert law enforcement and the media to say there is a problem with some people within the transgender community for whatever reason. And if there's a red flag, you should see that red flag and take appropriate action. It's the same thing when we talk about Islamic terrorism, or I could go on and on. Whatever. There's different forms of terrorism. When we talk about white supremacy and, a terrorism regarding, relating to white supremacists, I don't go around and say, oh, I'm so offended. Oh, this is targeting all whites. So I don't think you as a transgender person should be in any way upset or angry about this. To me, I think you have to ask yourself, why are there so many transgender mass shooters? And I think, to be honest, if we were to have a frank conversation, I think Sandy nailed it when she said to me earlier, this didn't happen 20, 30 years ago. So what's changed? I'll tell you, because 20, 30 years ago, if you wanted to get a sex change operation, as an example, you had to see a psychiatrist, you had to see a therapist. They had to make sure, are you sure this is what you want to do? Okay, why don't you try living as a woman for a while? Just live as a woman. No, don't change your body. Just spend a year living as a woman. Are you comfortable? Does it make you happy? Is this what you want? In other words, there were rules, there were regulations, there was oversight. Now, anybody and his uncle can get a quote-unquote sex change operation. And so I think what you're seeing now is you have mentally ill people. They're mentally ill. And they say, oh, maybe I'm trans. Oh, maybe I identify as a woman. Yeah, that's what it's got to be. Well, I'll tell you what. Fix my plumbing, pump me up with hormones, and I'll be good again. And it doesn't work. So what I'm saying is we have to start being honest. And if we're honest, we could stop these mass shootings. But the moment you say this puts a target on everyone's back, what you're saying is bury your head in the sand. And I'm telling you, Kiva, it's not going to work. We don't want to bury our head in the sands. I don't think it benefits us, and I certainly don't think it benefits you, and it certainly doesn't benefit the transgender community. If someone tells me, Jeff, I'm transgender, I want to live as a woman or live as a man in peace, go ahead, knock yourself out. I'm serious, go ahead. It's a free country, God bless you. But when you got people like here, take Tyler Robinson. When you start, and there is a subculture, Transtifa, which is very real. Anybody who opposes us, anybody who disagrees with us, anybody who criticizes us, blow their head off. You got a problem. And this guy was another one. He didn't feel, quote unquote, accepted by his wife and his children. So what did he do? He killed them. That's a problem. Final word to you, Kiva.
Yeah, I didn't take offense to your argument. I think you make a good point, but I just kind of want to wrap this up by saying that I'm not walking around in fear thinking that I'm scared for pretty much the community. If we take the word transgender out of this argument and just say shooter, murderer, okay? I hear you. There's a lot of school shootings that happen to have transgender people, but we really need to look at the numbers and the statistics overall, because I'm sure some of the other shooters, the hundreds of shooters that have been out there, have been disturbed for some other reason. Maybe they were heterosexual and disturbed. Maybe they were cisgender and disturbed. We really have to look at the numbers now to say that transgenderism is the problem here, because there's a lot of school shootings, and let's not minimize any of those, but there's a lot of shooters in general that are not. And so we just want to make sure we're not drawing false correlations here, because I'm a statistician, and statistics association does not equal statistical correlation.
Kiva, so I hear you. Kiva, look, you made your argument. I think you made a very good, strong case, as always. Kiva, look, I'm telling you, I'm not saying this to stroke your ego. I'm being very frank with you. If you come to a Kuhner Country rally, event, whatever, and, hey, I'm Kiva, I'm transgender, not only will no one say anything bad to you, you will be welcomed with open arms. People will shake your hand. Somebody will want to buy you a beer. No one is going to threaten you. I just really want you to understand that. We don't care how you lead your personal life. We really don't. It's the violent, militant members of the transgender community. Okay, it is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. And obviously it's involving the massacre that took place in Pawtucket, Rhode Island at the hockey rink regarding that mass transgender shooter. Is the mainstream media deliberately ignoring any trans relationship to mass shootings? In other words, are they trying to cover up that this was another transgender individual involved in a deadly mass shooting? Is the mainstream media deliberately ignoring any trans relationship to mass shootings? A, yes. B, no. You know where I stand. I am a yes all the way on this, but that's me. I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn is in national ER. You can also vote via X, and I am very active on X. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhner. Daryl, I have Darry. Is it Daryl or Darry, Mike? Or is it Gary? It's Daryl. Okay. Daryl in the Peach State, Georgia. Thanks for holding, Daryl, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Daryl.
Hey, I got a different perspective on this. I'm looking at it from a legal point of view because the Hippocratic Oath says that doctors ought to do no harm. Am I not correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if these doctors are participating in this mutilation of the human body and prolonging the mental suffering of these individuals, that they go out and commit unspeakable crimes, that means they're basically partially responsible because they are doing harm. They're not helping people. They're harming this individual, and this individual is going out harming other people. So maybe if the law look at it from that point of view, start putting some of these doctors in jail and making them do some serious time. A lot of these doctors are going to say, you know what, I'm not going to go ahead and affirm this idiot's psychological problems. I'm going to not put him on these drugs so he can go out and he or she can go out and harm other people, because that means I'm actually harming other people as well, because that's the way I see it. I could be wrong.
No, you're not wrong. In fact, Daryl, now this is involving underage teenagers, right? Underage individuals who are under 18, under the age of consent. But there was a huge decision handed down, first of its kind, that millions of dollars, by the way, was a huge settlement, that the hospital is now being held responsible, the doctor in the hospital, for basically trying to influence a young teenager into getting a transgender operation, a what do you call it, gender affirming, anyway, sex change operation. So for pushing the puberty blockers, the hormones, and then of course the genital mutilation. And this is a young underage girl, and she regretted it within almost immediately, especially a year or two later, she completely regretted it. But by then, the damage had been done. And she said that the doctor put pressure on her to do it. The psychiatrist at the hospital put pressure on her to do it. The nurses put pressure on her to do it. And she said, where do I get my body parts back? They're gone. What you've done it's irreversible. You've destroyed my life. I will never have children. I will never be able to enjoy sexual intimacy. My body is now completely screwed up. And there's all kinds of other impacts and consequences to my health, to my brain, to the chemical balance in my brain. It's barbaric. And now it may start causing many of these doctors and hospitals to say, if they're under the age of consent, we better not push this through, because we may get more lawsuits like this and this will bankrupt us. So it's the first of its kind. And I hope it sets a precedent, because I agree with you. Look, at a bare minimum, you're right. Doctors take the Hippocratic Oath, first do no harm. Well, if you're mutilating someone's genitals and cutting off body parts and injecting them with, drugs and blockers and hormones that are doing irreversible damage to one's brain, one's chemical balance in the brain. How is that medicine? That's a form of torture. That's medical experimentation. As far as I'm concerned, this is child abuse. And this is so wrong. Now, if you're talking about a 21-year-old adult, consenting adult, 21 years old, on their dime, and with the proper psychological consultation and whatever, well, okay, it's a free country. You want to have a sex change operation, have a sex change operation, but don't force it on minors. And I think that's the problem now. They've been forcing it on minors. And mark my words, Daryl, this is going to cost the medical profession billions of dollars, because I believe it's going to be the first of many lawsuits. Final word to you, Daryl.
Well, I don't look at it not only as the minors, but most of the mass shootings have been done by adults. So obviously, if you're a doctor, you're still affirming these people with these drugs, and obviously they're mentally imbalanced, because a man's a man, a woman's a woman. So if you think otherwise, you obviously have a mental problem right there. And if you're participating with it, you're an accomplice in those people's murders or atrocities they commit, because you helped them. You didn't stop them by putting them in medication that would help their psychosis or something like that, you go ahead and feed into it and tell them, yeah, if you think you're a woman, yeah, you're a woman. So, and when this guy goes out and does what he just did in Rhode Island, those doctors really should be held partially responsible because they put him on those drugs. They should have seen he was psychotic. You know, they're partially fault. So if some of these doctors start...
No, I'm with you. No, look, they should have seen that he was mentally ill, that he was psychotic. Okay, my sister in Tucson, Arizona just texted me on my private phone, and she makes a very interesting point to add another log to the fire that Daryl in Georgia added, which I also thought was interesting, you know, about doctors, the Hippocratic Oath, and first do no harm. And when you have someone who's clearly mentally ill, as the children said, he's sick, very sick, mentally sick, and has got psychotic issues, do you really want to feed into that? I mean, is that what a doctor should be doing? Affirming someone's psychosis? Instead of saying, you know what, you need mental help, go see a psychiatrist or go see a therapist or whatever. Instead, you put him on these cocktail of hormones and you encourage him to start chopping off body parts. That's really what, you know, sex change operations are. You're cutting off body parts and replacing them with artificial body parts. So that's a very good point. Well, here's another one, the child abuse aspect. And this is what my sister Jennifer points out. Jeff, why is nobody talking about that this was child abuse? The shooter, Robert Dorgan, he, she, whatever pronoun this guy, wanted to use, wanted his kids to call him mom after he had been their dad for all of their lives. In my mind, this is psychological, emotional abuse. I agree, Jen. I completely agree. I mean, think about it from the kids' point of view. We talked about the wife a little bit, where that was one of the reasons, that was the reason why she divorced him. What is it, 5-6 years ago? Saying, I married a man, we had 6 kids, and all of a sudden he tells me he's a woman. And he's getting operations and hormones, and I go in bed and he's got, artificial female body parts on him. And he's my lesbian lover now. I'm like, I'm not a lesbian. What the hell have you just done? Well, the kids were saying, he kept insisting, you have to call me mom. And they're like, but you were our dad our whole lives. Like, we're going to call you mom? Like, we just can't. It's disturbing. It's disruptive. It's shocking. It's something we can't process. We don't want to process it. And anyway, he couldn't handle it, and eventually he ended up massacring his family. 617-266-6868. So, yeah, I think it is child abuse. Of course it's child abuse. You're their dad. Biologically, in every way, you were their dad. And then all of a sudden, you tell them to call you mommy? And you start dressing like mommy? And you start taking hormones to try to be more like mommy? And then they find out you're cutting off all kinds of your private parts? And you're walking around with artificial breasts? And an artificial, vagina, forgive me? And you're also, and you're wearing bikinis? And you're wearing bras in front of them? And they're supposed to say, okay, mom. Okay, love you, mom. Okay, you're my second mommy. You can see it from the children's point of view. I mean, to me, that's a horror. Am I wrong? 617-266-6868. And I'm not saying, you ask once or you ask twice. It was a constant source of argument, debate, friction. He wouldn't let it go. And he just kept pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, and it led to argument after argument after argument, to the point that he got so frustrated he eventually went berserk and went into that hockey rink in Pawtucket and shot his ex-wife and shot his daughter and shot 3 other children, his children, before he shot himself and killed himself. I mean, look at it from the family's point of view. I thought I married a normal man. I thought he was a father and a husband. And before you know it, he's a woman. And because we have a problem with that, we're dead. Ay, ay, ay. Mo on the Cape, on Cape Cod. Thanks for holding, Mo, and welcome.
I got just the deal for you. Munson Academy is closed down. Munson, Mass. It's a former state school. They could renovate it. I'm sure they'd even get funding from Trump. And because it's so easy for a lunatic to want to say that he wants to be a woman and use that as his get-out-of-jail-free card. We're not locking anybody up anymore. Another example is the Northampton State Hospital. That's now been just redone and turned into housing for everything. But on the borderline of it, the Northampton jail, you could integrate and put a system in there. Are you on the air?
I'm listening to every word you're saying, Mo.
Munson would be the perfect mix because we've got to start putting these people away. Not because they're transsexual, because they're crazy.
Well, no, Mo, let's get to the heart of the issue, okay? You've cut right to the heart of it. Look, this is the problem that I have, okay? And I think that's why your point is so spot on, okay? You have a man. He's born a man. He married as a man. He's got bigger muscles than I do. I'm telling you, he's bigger than 90%. His muscle size, his chest, his shoulder, his arms. I'm telling you, take a picture of him, bigger than 90% of the men in the United States. Okay? The guy's got massive arms, massive shoulders. Apparently, he had very big pecs, his chest, but he lopped a lot of that off to put on artificial breasts. So this guy in another life could have been a wrestler or a football player. Okay, the guy's a tank. And then one day, after having 6 kids, so I'm not trying to be crude, but, he was a man in the bedroom. He's 6 kids, okay? So he's clearly a man. And all of a sudden, in his head, for whatever reason, he gets a psychological break, some kind of a breakdown, something happened. And now, look, to be frank, as the French would say among us, to be frank, there have been men who have been cross-dressers going back thousands of years. It's not unusual. I'm talking very powerful men, not so powerful men. But so, okay, they play dress up. They dress like a woman. Usually it's done in private or they do it at parties or whatever, and they put on a little lipstick and they wear dresses and they put on a wig and whatever. Okay, for some it's a sexual fetish. For others, just fun and games, whatever. That's one thing. But that's not what he was doing. Okay? He said, no. I'm not just going to wear the wig every day and the lipstick and the dress and the bra and the high heels. No. I'm changing my name. I'm changing my first name and I'm changing my last name. I'm giving myself a new identity, I guess because he hates himself. And then I'm going to get a surgical operation, which he did. And now it's gone. All my male genitalia is gone. I've got artificial female genitalia, including, by the way, artificial breasts. And I'm pumping myself up with estrogen and other hormones, which, by the way, causes people to be angry, to be aggressive, to lash out. I mean, these things, you can see the reaction. It alters literally the chemical balance in your brain. Now, if I said to you, I'm a raccoon, I go, no, really, I'm telling you, Mo, I'm a raccoon. You say, come on, Kuhner, ha, ha, ha. No, I'm a raccoon. And I want to start cutting off body parts to become a raccoon. What would you say to me? You'd say, Kuhner, you're crazy. Look, I'm sorry, you need help. You need to be institutionalized for a while. And what's wrong with you? I don't know if you're schizophrenic. I don't know what it is. But you need help and you need medication. Instead, he wanted to be recognized for who he apparently thought he was. I'm a woman, call me a woman. Recognize me as a woman. Treat me as a woman. And because his wife and children were like, I can't do it because you're not a woman, he didn't get the acceptance that he wanted, so he murdered them. And by the way, this happens again and again. These people claim to be a woman, or a woman claims to be a man, and then when they're not given that acceptance, they go out and start massacring people. So what? I've got to now what? I've got to get sucked in to your delusion and your fantasy? Okay, I just want to read another text from my sister, and the reason why is, as you know, my brother-in-law is a medical doctor. He's a general physician, and so my sister knows quite a bit, through her husband, about the medical community, what's going on in the medical community. Now, I just want all of you to listen to this because it's what's happened to the medical profession. It hasn't happened overnight. It's been gradual. It's been incremental. It's like boiling a frog. You just do it very slow. But there's no question now there's been a change in the profession, a change in the medical establishment, and a change, frankly, in many doctors and how they look at people, how they treat patients. This goes back to Daryl's call in Georgia about what happened to the Hippocratic Oath, first do no harm. Well, listen to this, because no truer words have been spoken. This is what my sister wrote. Jeff, with regards to the doctors, they are no longer independent professionals as they used to be. They are now basically corporate employees. That's a very good way to put it. They're really now basically corporate employees. I know a doctor who said that he had a patient who was a teenager that came to the appointment with his mother. The mother was a PhD psychologist. The teen wanted to, quote unquote, transition. And in particular, he wanted puberty blockers. So the doctor started asking questions such as, quote, well, how long have you been thinking about this, etc.? Do you know what this change will entail? Do you know the consequences? When the mother noticed that the doctor was probably not going to prescribe these puberty blockers, she then quickly interjected herself, got very angry with the doctor, and threatened him, saying she was going to file a complaint with the clinic, the medical state board, write negative reviews on this physician. Physicians are being bullied and coerced into giving in to the demands of patients, whether it's good for them or not. It is a very sad state in our current medical field. So, by the way, I've heard multiple doctors told me this. They go, I don't want to give it to them. I don't want to prescribe them the hormones, the puberty blockers. I'm talking now for underage minors. And either it's the school, the parents, or, the patient, herself or himself. And before you know it, I'm going to lose my license. I'm going to be sued. I've got, corporate breathing down my neck. I've got supervisors saying, just sign a damn paper. Just prescribe the puberty blockers. What's your problem? Or, pump them on hormones. Who cares? And they'll transition, and it's even better if they can do the whole operation. We make more money out of it. So doctors are being pressured and coerced into doing something they know is bad for the patient. In fact, will alter them for the rest of their lives. Irreversible, lifelong damage. And they know that it's bad. They know that it's wrong, and they don't want to do it. But as my sister says, the days of them being a truly independent professional, it's all money now. It's all the money. It's just follow the money. They're basically corporate employees. 617-266-6868. Sue in Maine. Thanks for holding, Sue, and welcome.
For taking my phone call today.
My pleasure, Sue.
Well, remember COVID, how everybody who didn't agree with the mandates was fired, and you had doctors running around refusing to help people who weren't vaccinated and actually saying that they would hope we would die if we weren't vaccinated.
Yes.
They keep, the left has had a systematic breakdown in our society and culture since the 1960s that I can remember. Systematically breaking down every single thing about it. They have things called women's health care, which is really abortion, which is women's health destroying care. You have end of life care, which is really destroying life care. And if you see what's going on in Canada, you see that they're also allowing teenagers who are depressed. And it goes on and on. This whole thing, I've been saying this for years. Please don't feed into this transgenderism. My state recognizes 82 different genders. I have no clue what 82 genders are, but I work part-time in the mental health field, and I am not allowed to talk to somebody in crisis to get them to understand that they could be happy in their own bodies if they're only given a chance. And instead of that, people are running around, and I'm talking counselors to psychiatrists are running around telling everybody, oh, no, that's okay, that's okay. The first thing was Bruce Jenner, when he kept saying how he was constantly encouraged by a psychiatrist to go ahead and do this. And it's horrifying. This is worse than Mengele. It's like a complete mindset that's been pushed into our society since people were told to stop believing in God, I guess. It's your sister is completely right too. It's these, I don't know, it's been such an issue for me. Because when I see some of these young people, and they've all bought into this, well, rather have a live son than a dead daughter? No, that's the lie. That's the big lie. And, for all these people to actually fall into this and believe it is just it's depressing.
No, it is.
Like
no, it really is. But there's a real backlash growing. Sue, I can tell you, this is now becoming for the Democrats an 80-20 issue. 80 people are against, 80% of the American people are against it. 20 people, the Bills in Sudbury, the Chris's in Gloucester, the hardcore fanatical moonbats. But outside of that, most people with common sense realize that this is against human nature and it's against biological reality. And in the end, you start messing with stuff like that, it's going to blow up in your face. But look, I just want to touch on something you mentioned about the medical profession. Here, look it up. Please don't take my word for it. I'm talking now Harvard. I'm talking whatever. I don't care. Whatever. Michigan, University of Michigan, or I'm just, take your pick. Some of the top medical schools in the country are now graduating doctors. And what I mean by doctors, I don't just mean a general physician. No disrespect to a general physician, but I'm talking heart surgeons, brain surgeons. These are, these are supposed to be the most sophisticated surgeons dealing with the most complex, complicated, sophisticated surgeries on the face of the planet. Basically, these are people that deal life or death. It's life or death. They cut you open, and if they make one wrong move, you're dead. Okay, or cancer specialists or whatever that, will remove a tumor from your body. And if they don't get the whole tumor that's malign, that's malignant, the cancer stays, you're most likely going to die. The reason why I'm mentioning this is there was a survey done of these people from this graduating class. And they were asked to be a brain surgeon, to be a heart surgeon, to be a cancer specialist, whatever it is, okay? Is hiring someone based on their race, gender, sexual orientation, or gender sexual identity, is that an important factor in order to become a brain surgeon or a heart surgeon or whatever? And they answered overwhelmingly yes. Yes. These are the specialists, the medical professionals, the doctors who just graduated themselves. They polled them. Now, I want you to think about this for a second. This is the extent of diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI. This is what they call the woke mind virus. Okay? The woke mind virus. Now, these are not stupid people. No one's going to tell me a brain surgeon or a heart surgeon or a pancreatic cancer specialist like the one that treated my mom. She was a brilliant woman. Absolutely brilliant. So no one's going to tell, very high IQ, highly educated, spending decades in school. And yet they come to the conclusion that when someone is opening you up, trying to save your life, that the color of their skin, their plumbing between, what's between their legs. I'm not trying to be crude, but in other words, their sexual biology, whether they sleep with men or women or what, that somehow, or how they identify, whether a man or a woman, that should be a key factor in whether they get the job and become promoted. Are you crazy? Are you a lunatic? So you're going to have people operate and perform some of the most dangerous, high-risk, complex, complicated surgeries, and we're going to actually judge them not on the content of their character and, most importantly, their skill and their competency, which is all that matters. All that matters. But no. If they're the wrong gender, out. If they're the wrong race, out. If there's not enough gays or lesbians, out. If there's not enough transgenders, out. And by the way, they even want to throw in religion. So if there are too many Christians, whatever, out. Put in Muslims or put it whatever. Now, I'm telling you, that's going to get people killed. You're crazy. Now, if I need, I hope to God I never do, but if someone's got to split me open, crack my chest open, and do open heart surgery on the Kuhner man, I don't care if that person's black, white, brown, Asian, purple. I don't care what's man, woman, gay, straight. You think I care? I want the best person for the job, and I want to know that the only reason why that person is about to operate on my ticker, on my heart, is because they are the best person for the job, not because they're checking certain boxes. So that's the corruption of the medical profession. Whatever happened to the Hippocratic Oath? That's the only thing that should matter. First, do no harm. Get the best possible doctor, period. And the one that will do the least amount of harm and hopefully help you and save you and help you recover and get you well again. Cure you. That's the point. So the whole medical profession, now it wasn't done overnight. It's drip, 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 a little here, a little there. But it's not just big business. It's not just that it's a corporation. It's now a woke corporation. And I'm telling you, there's certain areas in life you don't play with the woke mind virus. You don't put that in medicine. You don't put that in pilots, airplanes. You don't put that in the military. You don't put that in police. You don't put that in fire because you're in a burning fire. You want the best person to pull you out of that fire. Okay, there are certain things you just, you don't, when it comes to food supply and producing food, you don't want to play with starvation. So I'm not talking about, human resources and they've got 6 jobs because it's a fat bureaucracy. Throw 2 positions. Who cares? Let's feel better about ourselves. I'm talking about these are life-death professions. You don't play with this. Well, they're playing with it. And they've gotten to the point now that they have so indoctrinated and so brainwashed These are top surgeons, top doctors that now race, class, gender, sexual orientation, the LGBTQ agenda, it matters. It matters so much that it should disqualify. And they even say this. The person can be the most talented surgeon in the world. But if they're not black, don't hire them. If they're not lesbian, don't hire them. If they're whatever it is, if they're not LGBTQ, don't hire them. If they're not a woman, don't hire them. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. So that's the problem, Sue. And until we cure this woke mind virus, it's only going to get worse. Because that's how you get, to bring it back to Rhode Island and Pawtucket, that's how you get a man who's clearly mentally unstable, he's psychotic, who has been harassing his family for years, fighting with his family for years, threatening his family for years. And this animal, then because they don't want to affirm him and humor him, yeah, you're a woman. Okay, I'm going to call you mommy, and I'm going to love it. I'm going to call you mommy, and I'm going to love it. I'm going to act like you were never my father and you were never a man. I'm going to deny reality. I'm going to play into your mental illness. Okay? I'm going to pretend like your mental illness is not an illness. And this animal goes out and gets a gun. And by the way, the media won't even touch this. 2 pink guns. 2 pink. That's how sick this guy was. He couldn't just take 2 normal guns and shoot him. No, they had to have the color pink. What's next? They had to have the rainbow flag on him as well. And boom, 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 boom. Cold blood. Cold-blooded. That was an execution. That was a massacre. He massacred his own family. And by the grace of God, who knows how many other people he would have killed. Sue, thank you so much for that call. Mark in Medford. Thanks for holding, Mark. As always, welcome.
How are you today?
Very good, Jack. Mark. Very good.
So, you're right about one thing with the media, Jeff. This morning on Fox News, it was on, and not once did they mention that this man was transgender. Okay? And I didn't know until I heard your show this morning. So you're right about that. But the next thing I want to say is this, Jeff. How long before the media says that, oh, the family's not the victim, he's the victim? How long before they start saying that? I give it by the 12 o'clock news this afternoon, Jeff.
Oh, in other words, because they didn't accept him, basically they had it coming, correct?
Exactly. And Jeff, let me say something here. You lived half your life. 48 years old he was when he had this done. And you just woke up one morning and decided to make this decision? No, I'm sorry. Who put this in this guy's head? That's what I want to know. You don't just wake up at almost 50 years old, half your life already lived, to decide you want to be a woman. And you know something else, Jeff? Not that I'm blaming him, but this really took off with Bruce freaking Jenner. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're absolutely dead on. You're absolutely dead on. And look, Mark, I really shouldn't be talking about this. My wife is going to be livid with me. But anyway, I had a recent, like a full test, and they tested everything. And so they looked at my testosterone level. It's still normal. Don't get me wrong. But they're saying, Jeff, we're noticing over the years it happens to men in their 50s, 60s. They go, it's getting a little lower and a little lower and a little lower. And I go, look, it's still normal. You're fine. You don't have low T. But you could, you would feel better. That's how they put it to me. You would feel better if you would take a shot or the patch or whatever they give you, where you spread some kind of a gel or whatever. They told me there was multiple options where they said to me, you could raise your testosterone level by a couple 100 points. And I said, well, what benefit would that give me? Well, they go, look, testosterone is what really defines a man. Estrogen is a woman. Testosterone is for a man. So you would feel more yourself. Like, well, how do you mean? Well, you probably sleep better, probably have more muscle definition, probably have a little bit more energy. You know, you would feel better. It would just make you feel more of a man. And I said, okay, well, let me look into it. So I go to my GP and I asked my general physician, and this is what he said to me right away. He said, are you crazy? I'm like, why? He goes, do you understand? First of all, you start adding that kind of hormones into your body, you're going to start getting rages. It's going to alter the balance in your body. You can start getting really aggressive. You could start yelling, screaming, shouting. In other words, it'll change your personality. But he says the bigger issue is it could lead to prostate cancer. He goes, do you realize if you start playing with hormones, just testosterone, that it's one of the number one causes of prostate cancer? He goes, are you crazy? He goes, look, you're fine. You're healthy. Why would you do this to yourself? My point is just a simple one, Mark. Look, you know, it's just a guy like me in 56 years old, you know, we all lose a little bit as we get older. And they told me I'm nuts to get an extra shot of testosterone for cancer, for my emotional health, for the chemical balance in my brain. And I'm not doing sex. I'm not doing a sex change operation. I'm not trying to be a woman. I'm not, you know. So if they're telling me that I shouldn't do it because it's too risky to my health, and they're talking about a couple shots of testosterone, Mike, what the hell are they doing to these people where all of a sudden, as you put it, at 48, this guy's a man, and then he suddenly decides to become a woman? I mean, the hormones, the drugs, the operations, what this does to someone's psyche, brain, outlook. No wonder people are getting psychotic breakdowns and killing people. Am I wrong, Mark?
Jeff, you're 1,000% right. You see this every day in TV commercials. There's not a TV commercial that's not on TV that I don't see where the defy age. We get this cream, we get that shot, we get that pill, we got Nugenics Total T with Doug Flutie and Frank Thomas. Listen, whatever happened, Jeff? Just a growing old gracefully and then just dying. That's it. Just grow old gracefully. We're like a fine wine. We improve with age. There's nothing fake about me. There's nothing fake about you. There was nothing fake about my mother when I was growing up. She'd grow old gracefully. My father grew old gracefully until the day they passed away. Whatever happened with that, Jeff? Why are people putting these ideas in people's minds? Because look what happens when they do.
I love you, Mark. Mark, don't get me wrong. I only have eyes for my wife. You know that. But I love you in a non-sexual way, my friend. I couldn't have said it better myself. What's wrong with aging gracefully? Okay, this is a text from a dear friend of mine. Again, this was on my private cell. And I'm not trying to make people uncomfortable, but this is the language that they use now in hospitals. So to show you just how, woke and pro-LGBTQ plus the medical establishment has become. Listen now to this. Jeff, I was recently at Massachusetts General Hospital. And by the way, Mass General is truly one of the best hospitals in the country. Frankly, it's one of the best hospitals in the world. Okay, this is an elite hospital. Anyway, Jeff, I was recently at Massachusetts General Hospital. In some of their literature, they now refer to, quote, people with penises or people with vaginas instead of men and women or male and female. Holy mackerel. Holy mackerel. Okay, now, please, you got to listen to this. This is from a doctor. I can't mention the person's name, but let me just put it to you this way. From a very, very good hospital. Okay? This is a doctor from a, let's put it this way, top-tier hospital. And asked me to keep his identity anonymous because this could lead to a lot of trouble for him. Jeff, what you said about medical school is, as you would put it, not 100, but 1,000% correct. They have turned woke. These young future doctors, listen to this, are being taught that medicine itself is racist, bigoted, and discriminatory. They have also removed some of the classical courses from the curriculum, watering it down. They want to have diversity in their medical programs. So they use DEI to determine which applicants get in. Jeff, in my daily job, I have to talk with medical students. And all I can say is, it is not reassuring. They are admitting people who have no business being in some of the finest medical programs in the country. So they're dumbing down the curriculum, and they're even dumbing down the people they're letting in. They're admitting people who really are not up to par. They're admitting them for reasons other than academic excellence and their medical skills. So you have a lower test score, you have lower grades, whatever. But if you happen to be the right race or the right gender or the right sexual orientation or whatever, they admit you. They're playing with fire, man. 617-266-6868. Robert in Maine. Thanks for holding, Robert, and welcome.
Hi, Jeff. You hear me okay?
I hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, buddy. And thanks for what you and your team do. Yeah. You know, one of the things I like about your program is I learned so much because you and Sandy and Mike and all the people that are involved and the callers bring in all these other ideas about things. And it's a great place to learn stuff. You really hear different points of view. And one of the points of view that I really appreciate hearing about is how complex human beings are. You know, we're really, really complex. So whenever you look for a cause of an illness, cause of behaviors, you kind of have to consider cultural things, environmental things, family things, all this other stuff. And so it's never very simple. I want to bring a couple things up that the medical profession has done. And it was wrong, but it was because of what's like wokeness, whether it's woke on the right side of things or the left side of things. On the right side of things, there was a time when psychiatrists, and they should know better, used to call women who were mothers of schizophrenic kids schizophrenic moms. Think about it. What were they doing? They were blaming the mother somehow for what she was doing to her role. Think of the damage that does. So, and then we had this whole thing with kids that thought they were transgender. I have a daughter who went through some of the hormones. Thank God she wasn't cut up on, but in any case, they did some damage. And I remember the people who were in medicine, you know, and the teachers in school and their peers perhaps calling her and trying to get her to go along with it and saying it was a great thing because it was different, because it was cool. All this stuff brings into the stuff your callers and you and Sandy have brought up. So errors were made by medicine on both sides. Right now it's going in a woke direction. But here's the most important part of my call. There is hope. I listened to you last week or the week before with Bill from Sudbury, who, you know, you don't take any guff from him, but you also try to be kind and you try to be a decent guy with him. And at the end of that call, he started very differently he ended very differently from the way he started. The way he started, as you recall, he said, I don't want to fight with you, but listen. And then he started talking about some woke stuff, but he kind of went along a little bit with what your beliefs and my beliefs are. And I think that's the key. I think the way you spoke with that transgender person today is one of the things that's going to be like a vitamin to counter this crazy wokeness. We have to stand up. We have to tell people the truth and not be afraid of it. I've got a lot more to say about this, but I just wanted to bring that up. There is some hope.
Oh, you're dead on. No, there's a lot of hope. Look, on the whole, these surgeries, these so-called, gender reassignment surgeries, there's a huge backlash now. It's truly now an 80-20, even an 18-15, 85-15, 80-20 issue. You're seeing these detransitioners come out and they're very powerful. They're very eloquent. They're very articulate. And the Democrats are on the defensive. There's no question. And as to your other point, Robert, look, I see it in my inbox every day. Email after email from people who were former liberals, former leftists, Democrats, who say, I listened to your show, and after a while, you kind of convinced me. So I see that people are coming around to our point of view. And I always say this, when you have the truth, speak it. What are you afraid of? We have the truth. All we have to do is speak it. Speak it boldly. Speak it courageously. Don't be nasty about it. Don't be pedantic or arrogant about it. Okay, so Mike is, in the booth as usual. He's running the board. Sandy's answering the calls. And they got a big mother flat screen television in there. And I don't know, is it on Fox? Is it on Newsmax? I don't know, maybe the markets, CNBC or Bloomberg or Fox Business or whatever. I don't know. Jesse Jackson died. I don't know, are they keeping their, cross-country skiing. It's the Olympics. That's what they have on the Olympics. And, every time Team USA wins something, I see Mike pumping his fist. Mike, I wouldn't want you to break your back in there, Mike. I don't want you to be overly focused on the show, Mike. 617-266. He said, I got to pass the time somehow. 9:34 now on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Okay, just very quickly, this is the best definition of woke that I think I've ever read in a condensed form. So, we're talking about the woke mind virus, the woke medical school, woke doctors, how everything is getting woke. Well, this is from 917. Jeff, what is the overarching principle regarding all of the headlines from Pawtucket to Minneapolis? The answer is woke. And woke is best defined as the ideological framework, and this is so true, that concludes that anything one wants to be true makes it true. Woke defies the very notion of objective reality, both in time and in space. Whatever one believes to be true, wants to be true, is then by definition true and real, and changeable in time and space as well. So the murderer, Robert Dorgan, found true support with his family because they refused to let him lie to himself and them. He found false support in the trans community, especially in the medical community, which amplified the lie to such a volume that he could not tolerate the lie and killed those who only told him the truth. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. You see, what the woke mind virus, and this is at the essence of everything, whether it's open borders, whether you take your pick, whether it's transgenderism, whether it's whatever, whether it's defund the police, whether it's abolish ICE, whether it's sanctuary cities, whether it's running record debt and deficits. If you believe something to be true and you want it to be true, then in your mind, it becomes true. And you have to force everyone to accept your fantasy. So, if a biological man at 48 with massive muscles and a 5 o'clock shadow says suddenly he's a woman and he's going to become a woman, and he's now going to become a mommy and not a daddy, well, then you have to accept it. And the medical community lied to him, and the trans community lied to him, and everybody lied to him. But his ex-wife and his children, who loved him, didn't lie to him. Because if you love someone, you don't lie to them. You tell them the truth. And he couldn't live with it. And so he killed him. But that's the woke mind virus. They don't believe in truth. They don't believe in objective reality. To them, if it makes you feel better, 2 + 2 is 1, or 2 + 2 is 10, or 2 + 2 is 1 million, then 2 + 2 equals 1 million. But if you show them that 2 + 2 equals 4, well, then they have to kill you. 617-26, or they become extremely intolerant, which is hence Bill and Sudbury, which is modern day liberalism. Under Biden, we told them you can't have open borders. It'll be a disaster. Remember how they told us Afghanistan was a smashing success because they wanted to believe it. Remember how they kept telling us deficits don't matter. Skyrocketing debt doesn't matter. Out of control crime doesn't matter. Homeless encampments everywhere doesn't matter. No, we don't believe that there are violent, criminal, illegal aliens murdering, raping, committing crime after crime. In the end, there is reality. And that's what the Democrats can't handle. Kathy in Rochester. Thanks for holding, Kathy, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. And let me add another one to your list. And that Muslims can be taking over our country and there will be no problems down the road. That's another problem with being woke. But, you took the words out of my mouth. It's a fantasy. It's a big fantasy to say that men can have babies. Look at Pete Buttigieg, who had a fake breast put on so he could nurse his child. I mean, that guy belongs in a psych ward as far as I'm concerned. You know, it's such insanity. And it all, like you said, you summed it up in a nutshell. It's all about being woke. But I wanted to just comment on our health system in this country. This country is sick. We're sick both psychologically and we're sick physically. We really have a big problem in this country. And our whole medical system is run by big pharma. So people have the fantasy thinking that they can, not take care of themselves, not eat right, not exercise, not eat a healthy lifestyle, but they're going to take this little pill that their doctor gives them and all their troubles are going to go away. The human body does not work like that. And so we're in this, all these insurances, it just kills me because all they cover is all these medications and doctor's visits. There is no health insurer. There is no advantage plan for Medicare, older people that focuses on holistic health care. There's nothing that covers massages or going in an infrared sauna or getting chiropractic adjustments or now you can get some crappy nutritional supplements. But it's all about big pharma, and it's all about the medical community making money. And if you think these people care at these hospitals, they don't care. If you think Boston Children's Hospital cares about your child, they don't. And I'm going to give you a real quick example. I met a beautiful woman the other day who has a 16-year-old daughter who is a really smart girl, and she wants to become an anesthesiologist. So I said to her, the only drawback about that is, you go into the medical field today, they're forcing you to get the COVID shot. So we got on the topic of that, and she began to tell me about her husband. About a week before his 33rd birthday, he had heart issues, and she almost lost him. The guy was not even 30; he was 32 years old. She almost lost him because he got the COVID shot. And she went to the hospital with him, and she said actually the nurse actually admitted to her that it probably was due to the COVID shot. So even there, if you have a child, so they're basically taking away children's dreams and a lot of people's dreams of going into the medical field, because if you go in the medical field, just to be a courier for a hospital today, they force you to get a COVID shot. It's insanity. Big Pharma is running our government, and it's time that it stop. RFK is trying to make changes, and we all, people laugh at him and joke and think that he's a fool. Let me tell you, RFK is right on the ball. He knows exactly what he's doing. This country needs a real tune-up as far as our health is concerned in our health facilities, and we need to reestablish mental institutions so that people who have mental issues, we take them off the streets, and they go into a facility.
Oh, you're dead on. Look, Kathy, you made a lot of points, but let me address your big one. There's too much money in big medicine. Bill in Sudbury. Thanks for holding, Bill, and welcome.
Hello. Good morning. Good morning, Jeff. I was listening to the show, and what you were saying before is really awful. It's just awful what you're saying today. I normally would never say that, but what you're talking about today is awful. What you're saying is that you are entitled to look at any doctor or any airline pilot and say you're a DEI hire. Somebody else, and the implications of that is horrible. That is pure mental poison to think you can look at somebody and say you're a DEI hire.
Bill, I have no idea what you're talking about. I mean, you have medical professionals now admitting that they are admitting medical students not based on their test scores, not based on their grades, not based on their medical competency or their skills, but literally based on their race or skin color or sexual orientation or gender. And you want to talk about mental poison, that's the mental poison. So I don't know what else to tell you. This goes all the way back to affirmative action. That's always been the problem with affirmative action, is that you don't hire people who's the best person for the job. You hire people not, or based on the content of their character. You hire people because you have to check a box. You want a certain quota of certain groups, whether it be racial groups, gender groups, now sexual orientation groups. You're not getting the best person for the job. You're not getting the most qualified person. Wouldn't you agree that if someone's flying a plane and there are hundreds of people on that plane and their lives depend upon a competent pilot, that you want the best pilot for the job? Or do you just want somebody there for quote-unquote diversity reasons? I mean, so would you like to be operated by somebody who is not the best heart surgeon, but happens to be, a black lesbian? There, let me just check a few boxes. So is that what you want, Bill? I mean, just in all, I mean, do you ever listen to yourself sometimes?
I can't believe what you're saying. What you're saying is so horrible.
Okay,
awful.
What's so horrible about it? You keep saying awful, horrible. So what's so awful and what's so horrible?
What you're implying is that you could look at any doctor and say you're a DEI hire, and the implication of that is that there's some white guy walking around somewhere who doesn't have that job. You're less than a regular doctor.
I never said white guy. You did.
That's exactly what you're saying.
No, you did. Number one. Number two, I can tell if a doctor is incompetent by the kind of behavior and the way they conduct themselves. If you have woke doctors, and by the way, many of these woke doctors are white, okay, just so that you know, you're white and you're woke, so you suffer from the woke mind virus. So I don't know why you're injecting race into this, which is what you Democrats do all the time. The only one that's being awful is you. The only race monger is you. The only one playing the race card is you. And you're telling me that it's okay to cut off the genitals of a 15-year-old girl? To cut off her private part? Okay, let's be more frank. To cut off her vagina, genital mutilation, to cut off her breasts, and then to give her testosterone and puberty blockers that will make it, by the way, impossible for her to ever enjoy sexual intimacy and will alter the chemical balance in her brain in the name of quote-unquote transgenderism. And when I'm saying that's the wokeification of the medical profession, which it is, you call up and say, oh, you don't know who's a good doctor and who isn't. Yes, I do. If you're calling for people's private parts to be chopped off and to give them hormones and puberty blockers that will destroy them and cause unalterable, irreversible damage, that's a violation of the Hippocratic Oath. Is it not, Bill? Hello?
DEI. You're looking at that doctor and you're saying you're a DEI hire based on nothing other than what he looks like.
No, I'm basing it. No. Frankly, the Asians, by the way, the ones you're really screwing are the Asians because they have the highest test scores and they do the best on the exams and they have the highest grades. And in fact, Harvard was just found discriminating against them. Okay, just so that you know. So, no, what I judge people on is who have the highest grades, who have the best transcripts, who did the best test scores. Period, full stop. Listen, I watch the NFL. I don't care if a team is 100% black. I want the best players on the field. It's the same thing with the medical profession or pilots or anything else. I want the best doctors, full stop. And you know how I can judge? Very simple. Who got the best scores? Who goes to the best medical schools and has the best grades, the best transcripts, and who's the best person performing at these hospitals when they're doing their work underneath other doctors? It's very simple. But if someone is calling for young people to have their private parts chopped off, they're not fit for the medical profession. Is that clear? I don't know. Can I make it any clearer to you? You see, this is what you do. You call this show, I'm just going to be frank with you, and you call us white supremacists, which is a lie, and you call us Nazis, which is a disgusting lie, and you call us racist, which is another lie.